good to go?
Yeah.
Excellent. Well, hello, everybody. Welcome to the Talk to Danielle podcast. I am your host, Danielle C. Baker. And before we get started, be sure to like, follow, and subscribe to whichever channel you're listening or watching from. And today I have an amazing guest on. I absolutely love her story, how she tells it, and what she's doing with it to help others. I have the wonderful Laurie Bowen with me. She has, we've had the chance to chat so much, but a whole philosophy on healing with animals, and she has her own mini farm, and she's helping people heal with the help of animals, and it's an absolute I've lived it myself. It's very therapeutic. They help us so much. So thank you so much, Laurie, for coming on. And can you kind of tell us a little bit, a brief story of how you got to where you are today?
Well, thank you. And Lola says hi. That's my dog Lola.
Yeah.
Yes, I come from a background of trauma. My mom died when I was an infant in a terrible accident with a train. My dad remarried a year later, a very abusive perfectionist woman who beat me, basically stomped on my spirit. I was raised in the church. My dad was a minister, so it was very hypocritical. You listen on Sunday about love and God and Jesus, and then at home you're getting beat. And when you grow up, I'm sure a lot of people understand what it's like to grow up with a perfectionist. And if you have any sort of perfectionism in your kind of makeup, work on it, man, because it's horrible to grow up with somebody where you're never good enough, right? So, and then, my grandfather molested me, and then that got me into the whole, as a teenager, being very promiscuous, doing drugs, drinking, all that stuff we do to try to cope with the trauma we're running from. And even religion, right? I was born again, spirit-filled Christian for many years. I only got out of that whole religion, kind of rat race probably about 10 years ago when I was what I call awakened. I spent my life in psychotherapy and counseling as an adult, and also practicing it as a psychotherapist. And I've come to the understanding that talking about our problems over and over again isn't what helps us. It doesn't heal us. It does help you to a certain point, but it does not heal. And it wasn't until I discovered the power of horses in particular, but also dogs in therapy. We use dogs now in the courtroom for kids. Lola, no, don't do that, please.
Lola wants to be on the show.
Come here, Lo. Come. Sorry.
Like I want in. You're talking about me. I love it.
She's my girl. She really is.
Yeah.
Dogs know when you're upset. They come and they comfort you. And same with horses. And the dogs in my book, life lessons I learned from my dogs are all dogs. I talk about the dogs that were with me at the different traumas I've had. And so I always I'm come from a very funny background. My dad is hilarious. As a preacher, he always told a joke, and then he would talk about something in the news, and then he would bring it back somehow to what Jesus would say or the Bible or whatever, right? And I liked listening to him. People loved listening to him because he always brought humor into it. And I'm a lot like him, although I reject, religion now, but so I try to use humor when I'm talking about these really difficult subjects like incest, like child abuse, like being traumatized, losing your main connector, your main caregiver as an infant. It has a huge impact on the rest of your life if you don't. And me, I've spent my life in counseling. I've spent my life in training to be a counselor, and I'm still working at it. So I want to try to help people find something that doesn't cost a lot of money, that's easily accessible to you, and actually works.
Yeah. And when it's deep-rooted trauma like that and continuous, because now we're talking about complex trauma.
Yes, exactly.
And it's children, as children being in a healthy environment, if I can call it that, you are already hard on yourself every time you do something wrong or you feel like you do something wrong. But when it's continuous, chronic, it's habitual, you really think from day one that there's something wrong with you. So yeah, like you say, the behaviors you have later on, the
So hard
bad
to get rid of.
choices, the
Yep.
bad choices we make later on is
Yep.
just to numb
And
us, to
and then
kind
you
of
feel
cut it.
guilty for all the bad choices you made, right? And
Yeah,
it's like, when does it end? When do you actually get healed? I'm
exactly.
61, and
Yeah.
I'm still, you know, I had this functional doctor who I'm going to talk about, Dr. Andy Thomas. I thank him in my book, who was trauma informed, is trauma informed. He retired this year. So I had him for 7 years, and
Wow.
he saved my life. He was the first doctor that understood me. And it was teaching me about trauma. No other doctor counselor has ever even barely talked about trauma, and
Mhm.
doctors aren't taught about trauma. And you might have heard of Dr. Gabor Mate. Have you heard of him?
I've
Yeah.
heard of him.
He's so
Yeah.
trauma informed. He's the doctor that coined the term compassionate care when it
Mm,
comes to dealing with addicts. He doesn't even
wow.
like using the term addict. He says, you're not an addict. You're a person that using a substance to cope with your life.
That's right. The addiction is a side effect of what's
Yeah.
happening. And it's
Yeah.
so hard to, when you know deep inside you're a good person, that,
Mm-hmm.
but you're making these bad choices, that you are
Exactly.
not your behavior, you are not your choices. It's
Mm-hmm.
so hard. And you're right about trauma and how dogs, especially dogs, we shared that off camera earlier, but this year I decided to do some healing on some really deep rooted
Mm-hmm.
traumas.
Mm-hmm.
And uh, like I said, it was my sister's dog. I was house sitting at the time, and the dog was there, and that dog was just like a blessing to me. Just he wasn't doing
Isn't it
anything.
like being
He
with
was just
God or
being a
being with an
dog.
angel? It's like,
They just know, and then he would just be there,
yeah,
and they would just it would calm me down, and I was just like, okay, I'm gonna
bingo,
get through this, you know.
bingo.
It was tough. Is there because you talk so much about wanting to help people, and you're so right about, in therapy especially, because I do a certain form of therapy where we don't spend a lot of time talking about it, that let's stop
Mm,
reliving it and let's start
yeah,
rebuilding.
yeah.
And is there a defining moment that you experience at one point where you're just like, you know what, the animals are helping me with this, and that there's something there with the animals. Is there a defining moment, or is just it's just
Well,
kind of happened?
I went to the University of Windsor back in the 80s, and I took a program called Drama in Education. And it was all about using the arts in education and in therapy. And I've been tooting that horn ever since.
Right.
And we're in 2024, almost 2025. And I'm talking art, music, drama, dance, writing, in therapy, in education, in math, in science, in history, bringing the arts into everything that we do, which is very
Right.
Montessori based, which I'm trained in Montessori. So you
Yeah.
bring that up to today where I'm, I did counseling and social work, but I knew at a certain point, and everybody that's in healthcare, whether you're a doctor, a nurse, or ambulance driver or paramedic or whatever, we all know when we're burning out, but
Hmm.
we don't do anything about it. And there isn't a lot to do about it because you don't really want to go to the counselor's office where your clients are going, like
Yeah.
there isn't a lot for professionals when they're burning out. And that's
So
why we have bad doctors and bad nurses because they're flipping burnt out and they should not be working. Well, I knew I was burning out. The
mm,
burning out is when you really lose you're starting to lose your compassion. You really like, I don't really care. Like, yeah, you
yeah.
just start to lose your compassion and you know it. And so I could feel it coming. And they say in social work, you only have 8 years before you burn out. And I had been in it a lot longer than 8 years.
Wow.
So I had been trying to do creative arts therapies, but it wasn't really catching on. Like, I don't know why. Don't ask me why, because I don't know. It's free, it's simple, it's easy, it should be in every hospital, jail, school. We should be doing it in every long-term care facility. Like,
Yeah.
maybe in my lifetime I'll see it, but I doubt it. Well, I gotta be positive. But the whole point is that, through the use of the arts is also in addiction, doing
Yeah.
art, to make a how do you feel? What does
Yeah.
addiction look like? What does it feel like? You want to act it out? You want to write a song about it? Like so
Yeah.
many things, because it's all about processing the emotion, right? So what animals do for us is they process it for us.
Mm,
So when people come and spend time with horses, the horses will yawn and they'll stomp their foot, and that's them processing our energy.
Wow.
You know,
That's
what I find fascinating is, 30 years ago when Reiki first came out, therapeutic touch, they called it. I was working at Canadian Mental Health Association in Windsor as a recreational therapist, and that we all thought, ooh, this is crazy. This is nuts. Ooh, you're going to do this and it's going to make a difference. Like, right? Like we thought they were nuts, right? Honestly. And if you came from the church, you were taught it was demonic. Like,
right.
that crystals are demonic, that all this stuff, right? We were taught that all this stuff is bad, but all this stuff is not bad. All this stuff is actually from God, kind of thing. Anyways, I
Yeah.
remember I volunteered for the Reiki session. They called it therapeutic touch back then because I'm open. You got to be open. And now look at us all these years later. Science has proven that we have energy and that
Yeah.
like it's actually a real thing. It's not woo. So it's the same
Yeah.
thing with horses. People have always known, especially indigenous people, have always known that they have a magic to them. They truly do, as do dogs, as you experienced as well.
Yes.
Mm,
Yeah.
You know?
My father's had horses for
Mm.
decades, and
Wow. So you grew up with them then.
yeah, he's always said there's something, right down to the last time I was with him, because now he's getting
Mm,
up in age, so he can't really care for them anymore. But
right.
even just feeding them, the crunching of like he says, all of it, just
Sounds.
the vibration that they give off is
It's
there
true.
are no words. You have to experience it to really feel it.
It's true.
When you touch that horse, and you're just like, oh, I feel lighter,
You're,
and
yeah,
you're not thinking it's the horse.
they slow down our heart rate. I mean,
They do.
scientifically, they've proven it. They've proven that horses and dogs in general, but I'm talking about horses because horses have 10 times the electromagnetic field around their hearts than humans,
Oh, wow.
even more than dogs. So they feel you. Like I always tell people, when you drive in the driveway and they're way back at the barn, they already know you're here. They already
Yeah.
know why you're coming. They already feel you. And if you're
Yeah.
feeling really down, they're going to be concerned and they're going to come up to you and go, "What's wrong with you, lady?" Like, it's
Yeah.
amazing.
They really do. Or if
They
they're,
know. And if
yeah.
you're being incongruent, meaning you're pretending you're happy when you're sad, they will feel that too. And they will show you through their behavior. They might turn their back on you to show, like
Mm,
they communicate. It's fast. They always blow my mind every time. Like it's like
yeah.
looking in a crystal ball. You cannot hide from them.
No,
Yeah.
no. And they seem to kind of teach you something every time.
They
Like
do.
you've been doing this for so long, but I'm sure you're still
Oh, I
seeing
learn
certain
every day.
situations.
You know what
Yeah.
I've noticed as of late, the last couple of years. So in 2021, I left my husband and I went to Windsor, where I was for 23 years, where my daughter lives and my grandkids, right? Just to
Right.
get away for a year. And I brought the horses with me and I rented a place for them to live and I lived close by and whatever. And I had the first COVID shot and I had this pain that radiated down my arm and in my lower back. And I thought it was, the flu-like symptoms. This was my first vaccine, right? At the beginning of the, around,
Yeah.
2020, it was spring 2021.
Yeah.
And for a week, I felt this. And my husband said, "Oh, you're having a panic attack." My daughter, "Oh, you're having a panic attack." I was like, "This is not a panic." So
Mm.
I was with the horses and I had one of these pains. And the three of them came around me in a circle. And one of them, so I was down like this, and one of them put their forehead on my
Oh.
forehead. And I felt this peace, man, like water just washed over me. This peace, this most peace. It was like I was with God, like in heaven, like. And I heard this voice. I know it's gonna make me sound crazy, but I heard this voice, like in my head, heard this voice say, "You're having a heart attack, but you're gonna be okay."
Oh.
And that's exactly what happened. I had a heart attack and I had 5 stents put in. And those
Wow.
horses knew it. And if you have a problem with your stomach, they'll come put like if you have, your liver's bad or whatever, they will put their nose where they know you're sick. Like
Yeah.
where it's
It's powerful, and some other animals
and
like
they will
cats.
nip you too. They will
Yeah.
bite you to tell you get the Get up.
It's
It's time to get up. Enough crying. Get up. They will. It's, oh yeah.
uh,
Anyway.
That's unbelievable. That's good. Now, can
Yes.
you kind of let us know? Like, I know a lot of people. It's the healing through animals or pet therapy. Some of them call
Yes.
it. You're starting to hear a bit more about this now. It's
Hmm.
starting to get
It's
known a
true.
bit more. Who, from your experience, who can really benefit from that kind of therapy where they could just come in and spend time with animals? I know it's kind of broad, but for
It's
people
very
who've not,
broad because it
yeah.
helps everybody. But I specialize when I was in practice, my specialty was families.
Hmm.
So I got miniature horses because I wanted to work with children because, when you come from childhood trauma, you want to help kids. That's
Right.
what I've always wanted to do is help children and help families.
Yeah.
So, and in families, there's addictions, there's Alzheimer's, there's ADHD. So there's everything in families, right? So there's
Yeah.
developmentally delayed siblings, there's everything. So really animals are good for everybody.
Yeah.
People that go through difficult times often are diagnosed with a major illness, either throughout it or at the end of it, right? So we know now that there's been studies that have shown if you repress your feelings, you're going to get arthritis.
Hmm.
If you're a perfectionist, chances are you could get ALS. So learning to manage stress to me is the most important thing. And this is what you do here is you learn to manage stress just by
Yeah.
being quiet. It's kind of funny,
So,
but
yeah,
just
and it's
being
such a
quiet in nature with animals. You don't have to. People call me and they say, "What do you do? Like, I don't know which program to do. Should we do meditation? Should we do forest based?" It doesn't matter what you do. Do
hmm
what you want. Do
what
whatever you want. Take them for a walk, pet them, talk to them, play with them, throw a ball. It's more about being with them
yeah,
and what you do with them, you know?
yeah. They kind of bring you back into the moment, into the present. And
Exactly. They're
yeah,
always in the now. They're always in the now. Yeah, which is
I
where
like
we need to be, right?
that, especially when we're going through traumas or if we're too much in our, I always say
Yes,
I'm too much
yes.
in my head right now.
1 minute
Kind of
at a time
clear,
sometimes, right?
yeah, they clear that fog, and it's
Mhm,
great. And I like how you said that the stress can store, it's like can create an illness. In the
mhm.
practice that I do, it's the same but
You
through
got to read this
emotions.
book by Dr. Gabor Mate. It's called When the Body Says No.
When the body says,
I started teaching at the college a couple years ago in Brockville and teaching stress management, and I tried to use that as a
yeah.
textbook. When the body says no. So he did research on how our emotional health affects our physical health, and he found that exactly what I just said. People that repress their feelings tend to get arthritis.
Yeah.
So he found the different diseases that based on different, somebody that is a perfectionist, it's called type A personality, when you have to
Hmm.
be perfect and nothing can be wrong. And that is a lot of stress because nobody's perfect and you're never going to obtain perfection. And you
Yeah.
make not only yourself stressed out, but the people you live with stressed out. And I've worked hard to not be a perfectionist. I've worked hard to allow messes, to leave the dishes in the sink, Because when
That is
my kids
hard.
were little, I would because I grew up with it, like a perfectionist, like, oh my God, you can't ever have anything dirty, like, oh, right? Like that
Yeah.
kind of stress. Yeah, I'd be the same, right? And I'd be like, why am I getting mad at them? They're flipping kids, they're gonna make a mess, And I had
Yeah.
to work hard at not caring about dirt. We care way too much about being clean, don't you think?
We need to
Well,
enjoy
I
life
guess
a
we
little bit.
had to with the pandemic, but a little dirt never hurt.
Yeah, exactly. At least to allow the kids to be kids, and that's
Yeah,
not
exactly.
always the case. But
Hmm.
yeah, and you're right. The way that the way that from what the way I was taught was for every tear you don't shed, it'll store itself in one of your organs, meaning that you will make yourself sick if you don't
So true.
address these. So the animals are great. They don't judge you. They just
No,
want to be there with you. And
never.
so it's something that's beautiful work that you're doing, and then you're building
Thank
that
you.
those programs. Before we start talking about your programs, is there advice you wish you would have had sooner that would have made your life easier?
Mm.
That just that you could just
Yeah, trauma, learning about trauma. Like I'm in, this late in life, and I only just learned about it in my 50s. And I've worked in mental health and addictions. I'm certified in addictions. I've worked in mental health, had my own private practice. I
Yeah.
didn't know very much about trauma until I got with a doctor who's a functional doctor. Have you ever heard of that? A
Yes,
functional?
but that's just recent, that term,
Yes,
functional.
and
Uh,
they're not always covered. Like
yeah,
sometimes you have to pay for it, which
yeah.
is unfortunate because they look at you spend an hour with them, first of all, a doctor,
Hmm.
and they look at your body, your mind, and your spirit. And I was fortunate enough to find Dr. Andy Thomas in Brockville. He's actually a hospice doctor and he does concurrent disorders. And he also did the functional thing on the side. But he was the first person that went, well, of course you did that because da 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 da. Well, that makes sense, Laurie, that you would blah 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 blah. And I'd be like, what the frick? Really? Like you're like, yeah, like I couldn't. And every
Yeah,
month I would go and I'd take notes and he'd go read this book, read that, talk, look up this one, da, da, da. And I'd spend the month doing whatever he told me. And he ended up retiring because people get dependent on him
yeah,
and people don't actually do the work. I was one of the few, right? And
yeah.
it's true because he only retired from this in June because he was burning out and he knew it.
Hmm. Hmm.
And that's not very long. And there's been many times where I've actually thought about calling him because I'm like, I need to talk to him so bad. But he's right. I did get, a little, when you have somebody that knowledgeable that you can really glean from at your
Yeah,
disposal, for me, I don't think it was dependency. For me, I kept learning. So at
hmm,
the very end, one of our last sessions, he said, you know what, Laurie, you know how they tell us we're onions and we got
yes.
layers and layers. He goes, your onion's almost peeled. I'm like,
Oh, wow.
one,
Doesn't
freaking
that feel
right.
great?
It better be because
Yeah,
so I just want to help. I spent my whole life going to counselors and I don't want to say it's a waste of time because it's not, but don't spend freaking 30 years doing it. If you're not
yeah,
getting healed, if things aren't right, I guess look outside of the traditional mental health, sitting in an office talking about cognitive behavioral therapy, like
yeah,
CBT, they throw that at all of us, right? Kind of thing, or whatever
yeah.
therapy box. Think about walking in the woods by yourself. Think about meditation. These things don't cost anything at all. Think
Yeah.
about like putting on some music and dancing every morning, like
Hmm.
as a prescription and sing once a day. You have any idea what that does to your body, to your like it just
Yeah.
bugs me that we don't do it. Like in the jails, in the hospitals, in the school, we don't, you hear about art therapy and music therapy, but you don't hear about the rest.
You're so
Dance,
right about that.
the theater, acting things out, acting
Yeah.
out how you're feeling, acting out if you want to talk to somebody about something really important to you and acting it out. Like that's so good for us.
It is. And through the arts, sometimes we don't have the words to express how we're feeling.
Right.
We don't have the words. So sitting in that traditional picture that we have of traditional therapy where you're laying down on a couch or,
Yeah.
you're not moving. You're just there.
Exactly. Try and
But
tell
arts,
an 8-year-old boy to sit on a couch and I'm going to talk to you for an hour. Like,
yeah,
what I
like I,
used to do with the little 8-year-old boys is I'd play video games with them.
yeah,
Their
well, that's
parents didn't like it, but the kids loved
That's
it.
it. That's the kind of
Mhm.
approach because my father was a child psychologist for his
Oh,
entire career,
wow. So cool.
and we working with Indigenous people as well, where it's like
Really?
you work in parallel because facing each other face to
Exactly.
you're cutting communication off.
Yeah.
So it's parallel. If they're staring at something on a wall, you stare at the
Yeah.
wall with them, and then they just eventually open up. So you're right. We need to move. We need to
And when you're
transfer
when you're
everything
doing
over.
something creative, you're also usually feeling calmer. So if, like I would give kids some art materials and paper and we would just talk while they draw, right? It
Yeah,
just calms them right down and we can talk about what they're drawing or we can talk about their day or we can talk about whatever they want. We don't have to
that's right.
talk whatever. the
Yeah.
most important thing for me in therapy was building that relationship. That's the most important thing in anything. Now I'm writing and speaking, and I'm getting, trying to do the TED Talks and
Yeah.
podcasts and all this kind of stuff coming out of my shell. Getting over imposter syndrome,
Hmm.
and that I do have something to say that's, beneficial and all
Yeah.
that. So
Oh, that can help a lot of people as well. So
I hope
it's
so.
wonderful work. What is coming? Because I mean, you talked about your book. We can talk about
Yes,
that as well. But
sure.
you've got going on, new programs and that, if you want to share with us.
Okay, thank you. I started a group. It's called my book. It's the title of my book, Life Lessons I Learned from My Dogs. It's basically a stress management group because I've decided that teaching people how to manage stress is probably the best thing I can do.
Hmm.
Because stress kills. And if we don't, research has shown we need at least 2 hours a week in nature in order to get the benefits from nature. So that's why I'm providing Healing Minis Farm School. I'm also a registered teacher in the province of Ontario, and I've done some supply teaching, and it's horrendous in the school system. The way we're trying to teach kids is so stupid and backwards.
Yeah.
And so that's why I started the farm school to have an opportunity for kids to do outdoor education, which is just learning every topic from science to math to drama to music to everything outdoors.
Yes.
That's all it is. And it's allowing kids to take risks and allowing them to use their critical mind about, should I climb that tree? Does it look safe? Like
Yeah.
I'm just trying to provide an opportunity for people to be in nature for healing, for learning, for I specialize in Alzheimer's, and I do something called horse-powered reading, which I know sounds ridiculous, but it's amazing. If you
Yeah.
don't like to read and you have really struggle with English, it's the perfect program for you because you read with a horse. One of the horses is your reading buddy, and we figure out what are the obstacles to you reading. And people that have Alzheimer's and or dementia, if they could read prior to having the diagnosis, they can still read. So we work on reading. Because
Wow.
people with those types of diseases, research is showing that they can actually learn and remember things.
That is incredible, and I like the idea of the reading therapy with the horses.
Horse-powered reading,
I
yes,
love it. I love
it's
it.
for, yeah. When I
I
heard about it, I thought that's crazy. Like, what will they come up with next? But I actually went and got trained in it this year. And
That's awesome.
it's not just for kids that don't like to read, although if you don't like to read, this is the program for you. But it's also for adults that English isn't their first language.
Hmm.
And then I have the special program for people with Alzheimer's and dementia.
That's amazing.
I don't have anybody coming though, so we'll put that
Uh,
up there.
we'll
But
put
it's
that out
more,
there. Yeah.
I have trails here that go back to the South Nation River. It's the wetlands, so we learn about the wetlands and why they're important. You can take a horse for a walk back there. The dogs go with me.
That's
Forest
amazing.
bathing is just enlightening all your senses as you're walking through the forest. What do you hear? What do you see? What can you touch? What do you smell? Right? Just
Yeah.
being one with the forest. That's really all forest bathing is if you think about bathing in the
Yeah.
forest. And it started in the 80s in Japan because doctors were prescribing it for people to go walk in a forest.
Mm,
We've gotten away. We're not meant to live urbanly. We're not meant to live
yeah.
in cement.
That's so true.
We're
We're
not.
really not. No,
We're meant to live in small communities,
yeah,
really.
surrounded by nature.
Yeah,
That's what
exactly.
our planet
I'm
is,
so
right?
blessed to be here. I really am.
Yeah. Oh, that it is a nice
Yeah.
spot too. So I highly recommend. I'll send people your way for sure.
Thank you. And I
You got
just
these.
wrote my book to tell my story, to
Yeah.
try to encourage people that you can heal. You really can. You
Yeah.
really can. And you don't have
And
to
it,
have thousands of dollars to go for therapy to heal, you know?
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And like you said, if you're doing the same thing for 30 years and it's not working, it's time to do
Isn't
something
that the
else.
definition of insanity, doing the
Yeah.
same thing, expecting different results?
Yeah. That's
Yeah.
it. I had
As soon as you get upset, like say you're at work and you start crying, the first thing one of your bosses is going to say to you is, we have EAP. Would you like to go talk to somebody? I get so sick of that. I'm like, no, I don't want to go talk to anybody. I'll go home and
Yeah.
sleep with my dog.
Yeah. No, I hear you.
Truly, my dogs give me more comfort than any person ever, counselor, doctor, anybody.
Yeah.
You know, we bring them
Yeah.
in hospitals, we bring them in old age homes, we bring them in courts now when kids are testifying. We're starting to
Mhm.
understand. I don't know why it's taken us so long, but
Yeah.
we're
We're
getting there.
starting, we're getting there slowly but surely. And
Mm.
that's why it's important to have these conversations and
Yes,
for people to try it out. And you may not see the connection in it if you're going through something, but test it out, try it out. It's not going to hurt you.
no,
And if anything, it's going to make you feel better. So why not
yeah,
give it a try,
exactly.
right?
Hmm.
So
So
before
I'm
I,
always, I'm always open to something new. I've tried acupuncture, I've tried hypnosis, psychotherapy, counseling, music therapy, just keep trying.
yeah,
Working out is one of the best things for mental health. Like
it really
it's
is.
probably the best. Problem is
And
when you're depressed, you have no energy. You don't,
no,
right? There's the double whammy. But if
yeah,
you
but
can
if,
overcome that and actually work out 15 minutes a day, it changes your life. It really
yeah,
does. We're eating,
and
not eating the sugar. Like, I mean,
yeah, and if you have
I eat
animals,
the
they
sugar
kind of
still.
force you, yeah,
Yeah.
the sugar.
I've always been I love chocolate covered almonds. That's my favorite thing in the world.
Yes, I'm with you on that one. You know, having animals, what I find is they kind of force you out when you don't want to get out because you have to,
Yes,
like, especially with
exactly.
dogs, you have to go and walk them out. You have to,
Hmm.
horses,
Honestly, I say
you
that a
have to,
lot, that if it wasn't for the animals that I have to take care of, I
yep,
might have not been here because
yeah,
depression can get deep, right? And
it
when
gets,
you start thinking about not wanting to live anymore, that's a sign that, you need something.
yeah, it gets dark.
And
It can
although
get,
medication can help, honestly, I don't think we were created to be on medication for the rest of our lives. And I think there are natural things that we can do to overcome certain things.
hmm
That's just my opinion, but I've been on every kind of med you can imagine for mental health stuff, like probably every kind of any depressant there is.
yeah,
Because I had fibromyalgia, which often goes with complex PTSD,
yes,
my doctor tried me on all kinds of, I don't even know what kind of meds they were because they weren't antidepressants. There was something else that was supposed to be for pain as well as, and they
okay,
made me really, really, you don't just rely on meds. You got to do
yeah,
other stuff, right? I think a
yeah.
lot of our system, it just relies on the meds and we don't do much of anything else. But
That is such a good point that you take them to make you want to get out of bed, and then you start
exactly. And
exercising
you
and
don't
you
want to
start,
take them forever. I'm not anti-meds. Please don't think that,
yeah,
but I don't know.
they're not meant to be long term, like you
I
said.
don't
You're
think
right.
so,
Yeah,
personally. I mean, with something like schizophrenia, it's a little different because that's a long term, it's not going to go away. But, clinical depression, we already know what heals it, and it's exercise. And not
yeah,
just exercise like working out, it's just move, dance,
yeah,
walk,
yeah. Do what feels
get
good,
out in the
basically. Yeah,
sun. We need vitamin D, right? We need sun. We really do.
yeah,
Hug a tree. Trees talk to each other, we know now, through the root system. They help each other. Like,
yeah,
and where I live, the wetlands, it's protected by the law, right? You cannot build on the wetlands. So there are things that grow here that don't grow anywhere else. There
yeah.
are ducks and swans and beavers and all kinds of creatures that live on this little 6 acres of
That's
beauty.
amazing.
So
That's
I just want to
amazing.
open it up for people to come and experience it.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So many people don't have access to that, so it's great that you're opening it up.
Exactly.
And
And I
yeah,
don't want people, oh, I don't have $20 to go. Well, you don't have to pay. We're
mhm,
becoming a charity, so come to our fundraisers, which will be really fun and musical, usually concerts. I'm going to put on a couple concerts throughout the year and
that's
just try to
nice.
raise the money to help run the farm, basically. Horses
That's
like to
good.
eat, so
Yeah, you kind of have to. Yeah.
yeah.
Before I let you
When are
go, I
you
always ask.
coming, girl?
Oh, I'm gonna be coming soon.
Okay,
I can't
good. I'm
wait.
waiting for
I
you.
keep seeing your posting your walk in the first snow this today. It was
Yeah, that was
amazing.
pretty.
That was
So
so
pretty.
cute. But
Thank
yeah,
you.
before I let you go, I always ask this question for my guests, and that's what do you want to be when you grow up?
That's funny. I knew what you were going to ask that. And today in our meeting, do you remember she asked us a similar question in the Lucky Book
Yes.
publishing meeting today?
Yeah.
What is it that you always wanted to be that you think
That
it's too late?
would
And mine was to be a singer in a rock and roll band.
oh, there you go.
So
Rock
karaoke
on.
is pretty close.
Yes. But hey, you can dance and sing all you want.
I do in my living
Yeah.
room by
Yeah.
myself for sure. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Awesome. I love that. Yes. Rock on.
Thank you. I
That
will.
is such an awesome. I love asking that question. I never this
It's a great question.
the answers are so different and it's amazing. It just and everybody lights up. Oh, I don't know if anybody any of the listeners that can go back to the other episodes where I have guests and everybody just lights up when we ask that question. It's amazing.
You know,
There's
there's an
something.
African proverb where when the person's depressed, they bring them to the chief and he goes, "When was the last time you danced? When was the last
Mhm.
time you sang? When was the last time you were grateful?" You know, and
Yeah.
it's so simple to just put on your favorite song, even when you're depressed, and
Yes.
just move a little bit by yourself. Like, and it'll change you. It changes your body chemistry. Did you
It
know
does.
that looking at something beautiful, if it's a painting or in real life, actually improves your mood?
Hmm.
Smelling lavender slows down your heart rate. Like there's so many things in nature that we can
That
use to
helps.
help improve our moods.
That's
I just
amazing.
say we should do it, more of
Yeah.
that and less of the other.
That's
That's all I'm saying.
that's it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's amazing. Thank you so much for
No,
sharing all of
thanks for
that with us.
having me. This was fun.
It was fun. It's just nice and
Hmm.
casual. We could talk about your experiences and what you have to offer because you do such great work and helping people is important. We talked about this when we were off camera of, just going out there and helping and trying our best to help as many people as we can
Yeah,
is so important. It's part of the healing too. When you're helping others, it helps you as well.
for
So
sure. For
it's
sure.
so important to get everybody kind of on the same page community wise and helping everybody, I think is great.
Yeah.
How can
I
people
think it's,
follow? Oh no, go ahead.
sorry, I was just going to say, I think it's better to realize that we're together because you know what they're saying now?
Mm.
What kills us more than smoking a pack of cigarettes a day? Have you heard this new
No,
research?
no.
Loneliness.
Yeah, I'm not surprised.
Loneliness more than smoking cigarettes. Like that blows my mind, although it
Yeah,
doesn't blow my mind because of internet, right? It's kind of disconnected us, but
yeah.
I mean, I'm one to talk because I don't go out much either, but I
You have
understand
animals.
that.
Yeah.
Hmm?
You have animals, so it's good.
Yeah, exactly. How can I be lonely? But loneliness. So I'm trying to create my own little community over here, so I'm not lonely out here. And
Yeah.
to age in the country is tricky. You need young
Hmm.
people around you as you age, or you're going to end up in that old age home, and I'm not going.
How can people follow you or contact you or reach you if they want more information or if they want to
Sure.
come out to
I
the
think
farm?
my website's the easiest. It's
Yeah.
healingminisfarmschool.com. I'm on
Yeah.
social media, but I'm under Laurie Lynn. I also have, it's called Arts for Life Productions. So,
Okay.
I do my own social media. I do my own websites. I do little documentaries. I have a film called Send Me an Angel. I'm hoping to start this new year coming up.
Mhm.
It's a musical.
Nice.
So I'm always doing something creative, writing, whatever, creating. And I put it under that umbrella, Arts for Life Productions. That's what you know how artists always have a side job?
Yes.
Because, yeah, I've had a
Yeah.
side job for 60 years. Now it's time to,
Thank you. Thank you so much. I could
well,
talk to you
thank
all
you.
day, and
Great.
I'll
Yeah,
add all of
I
that
know.
information. I'll add all the information so people can contact you if they want
Thank
to
you.
know more, if they want to come to the farm and have
Yeah,
session
in
with you.
North
That'd be great.
Augusta, an hour
Hmm.
from Ottawa, an hour from Kingston, right in the middle.
Right in the middle. I
Yeah.
love it. Well, thank you
Okay.
so much. And for everybody watching, don't forget to like, follow, and subscribe to whichever channel you're listening or watching from. And don't forget to check out Laurie's website as well to see all the wonderful things that she does. So thank you so much. Until next time, stay
Thanks for
safe.
having me.
Yeah, thank you for coming.
It was
Everybody,
great.
thank you. And stay safe, stay awesome. We'll talk